Ibrahima Guimba Saidou, and I really hope I got close to a correct pronunciation for that. He is going to speak about insights about crypto and blockchain investment opportunities and challenges in Africa. Mr. Ibrahima Guimba Saidou has over 20 years of professional experience in the telecommunications industries worldwide. He's in charge of the e-governance strategy in Niger and its implementation, as well as enabling the ICT ecosystem. Since July 2017, he's been appointed CEO of the newly formed National Agency of Information Society, ANSI, reporting to the President of the office, the Republic Office in Niger. Now, he's had a very sporty career. He's a member of the Niger basketball team, a forward of Olympic football of Niamey, a winner of Niger's top football league, and brown belt in martial arts in judo. And he's just confirmed to me that it is a skill that comes in useful when moving national strategies forward. Please welcome Ibrahima to the stage.
Good afternoon all. Thank you very much again for having me here. Since this morning, actually, I've been hearing about risk when it comes to Africa, and I was a bit surprised because for me, it should be part of our DNA here. Coming to this type of event, having actually investors investing in crypto and others, I think risk should not be an issue. But anyway, my presentation actually would be focusing more on really showing you how ready Africa is. Technology-wise, and also how ready Africa is in terms of opportunities. So aside from remittance, I think we heard it earlier, the one thing probably that I would like to focus on is that all this technology is helping big time with financial inclusion, primarily. It is one of the biggest challenges that we have. How can we turn this massive continent of opportunity into also a well-balanced platform for economy? The World Bank has shown that many people actually across the world do not have bank accounts, about 1.7 billion. And 2/3 of that, especially an adult, actually lives in sub-Saharan Africa. And what I would like to say is probably combining the technology with this opportunity is actually what is going to fuel the future on the continent. Look at this picture. It is a real picture. This is a picture taken of a young man in the desert of Niger. Look, he's looking for signal. So people have a huge appetite for technology. Huge. So which means our job is even made much easier. Since they love this, and this is a medium for us for service delivery, because at the end of the day, it's all about service delivery. It's not just about connectivity, it's about service delivery. Africa is already ready for that. When GSM was introduced on the continent, just a side story, in Nigeria, soon, a few months later, people were queuing, spending nights just to buy a SIM card. Coca-Cola had to revise its strategy because there was a decline in their sale. Why? Because people were shifting their money into buying airtime. So Africa has been ready for quite some time already for technology. And cryptocurrency actually is more or less already happening in Africa. You heard earlier about M-Pesa, although it wasn't cryptocurrency. I think it is a good testimony of how actually Africa embraced technology and actually how Africa leapfrog technology. Nigeria, for example, is, I think, the third country using the third country or GDP per capita in terms of cryptocurrency utilization, although it's new, so which is quite surprising. When I saw that, I couldn't believe it. But that's the reality. And one thing also that we need to look at the Africa Union level, we just recently established the largest free trade zone with the whole continent signing, except for one country, that free trade agreement. That allows people to move around, goods to move around across the whole continent. And that was done in Niger, my home country, a few months ago. What does it tell you? it tells you that also in order for all this to happen, there need to be transaction. There need to be some sort of common ground where we can exchange money, where we can buy goods, because money is there to buy goods and services. So that's where actually the blockchain and cryptocurrency can come to play. In the ECOWAS region where we belong to, we're already working on creating the ECO, which is going to be a common currency for 15 countries. Here, look at this picture again. It's a village. Actually, I took this picture. It was in Mali. A few years ago, actually, before moving from my comfortable life in Luxembourg, being an executive of SCS, and going back to Africa, actually, to be part of this change that is happening on the continent. So I was visiting Mali, and this is what I saw in a remote village. Again, that confirmed that people are absolutely ready. And what have we done in Niger? Because now I'm going to start focusing slightly more on Niger. We have decided to go full digital in the transformation of the country. Actually, that's why even I decided to go back home, because I've been given the opportunity to drive that. I'm in charge of the digital transformation. But what we're doing is really focusing on tech for good, because at the end of the day, things have to be balanced. We need to make sure that we transform the country, we create wealth, but it has to be done in such a way that it's sustainable. And Niger, by the way, is probably the perfect country for blockchain. I'll tell you why. That's the only country in Africa where the capital city has only 6% of the population. You heard me right, 6%. In most developing countries, actually have most of the population in the capital city, not in Niger. We only have 6% of the population in the capital city, and most people live in remote or small villages. So that's perfect distribution, right? That's perfect for blockchain. And that's what we decided to leverage, saying let's go invest a lot on technology. Let's connect all those remote areas, all those places across the country, because it's a government responsibility to deliver services, or at least to enable the delivering of services. The only decision that other decision that we have taken also was that the government should only focus on enabling the environment. We need to bring in the private sector, because there is money to be made, and also the private sector actually is more efficient in delivering that. And we're doing so by embarking our own local ecosystem. The other thing is that we're the youngest country on earth. I will tell you more about it later. So that will tell you also why we're doing it. This is the typical example of what we have been implementing. As I said, we're focusing on using technology really for the development. We're focusing on the SDGs, because that's the basics. We need to make sure, again, that there is wealth, and that basically that each village sees some sort of growth of its own GDP. And here we're leveraging technology, bringing a connectivity in the village, and providing services by focusing on the key ones. Agriculture, because that's where most of the revenues are coming from. Clinic, because people need to be actually in good health to produce. And also education, which is actually probably the most important thing. And I will talk a bit more about it later also. I'll spend the next few slides just going quickly on some of the key things, just to show you that it's happening. In agriculture, for example, we have already started implementing it. We are, what I have done basically in Niger was to set up this organization where I work with all the departments. I'm the handyman of the government, so to speak. And I'm putting a technology layer that we're all using, but to address what I've just mentioned earlier. In agriculture, for example, and we're trying to leapfrog, we're leapfrogging. We're working with a Luxembourg-based a startup called Ibiza, which has been introducing actually blockchain in microinsurance. Actually, I'm meeting with them even in a few weeks. So this is one example. We're also working with an NGO CARE, actually with the Denmark office, to do the same actually in the agriculture sector as well. So these are just two examples. And then all these are working also with the local ecosystem. Land rights, I heard that earlier. I am delivering a project in March addressing that, and we're developing it in-house. When I say in-house, that's in-country more or less, with local developers. And the government has taken the decision to implement that. Yes, that's how also you make sure that there is continuity in the country. One government has to start it. So we're starting the land right projects. It's also in line with our desire or our ambition to be in the top 50 on the doing business ranking and top 3 in Africa. So this one is going to be delivered already phase 1 in March, fully developed by the local developers using blockchain. And then we're doing it just for the capital city, and then we're going to start expanding on the rest of the country. Healthcare, we're doing the same and focusing mainly on the digital health records, because that is also absolutely important for us. So we're using that and also using it actually for two things: to monitor, the distribution also of medicine, but also there are a lot of counterfeit medicine on the continent. Actually, it's one of it's even scary what is happening. We have a lot of Indian and Chinese companies that are dumping fake medicine on the continent, and this is going to help us actually monitor that or address it. But all the digital transformation cannot happen if we do not have a proper identity system. We are launching this year a massive digital ID program with various partners, the main partner being the World Bank. So we'll be starting it during the course of the year to really establish all the platform that is needed to have that. We already passed a law to have a unique identifier. That law has been passed. And then to have a unique and single identity system that can be used across the whole country. That is going to help us provide all sort of digital services in the country, starting with a very clean and solid database. We are, so as I said, I've started that already because all the groundwork has been done. And in probably before June, I think we'll be launching the tender process that is going to help us identify, the key partner for that. And as I said, so with the right identity system, with all the services that we are deploying, the other key element for us is the financial inclusion, as I indicated, in the financial services. Many programs are been running already. When you take, for example, one is in the agriculture sector, where we have been distributing e-vouchers to monitor actually the aid and subsidies that are being given to farmers. We also have just basic accounts, actually, that we have been creating using microfinance institutions and then also using even mobile accounts. So this is really spreading across the country. And we're not just on the user side. I wanted to show on to this audience, because I believe it's probably even a company that you may want to look at investing. It's one of the local startups that has developed actually a suite of services on digital payment called WePay. It's being used in Niger now for digital payment across the country. But what they have done, they have developed also a suite of services. They have launched an Uber-like service called Beep. They have also a service on the pharmaceutical side and then also food delivery, so that their actually electronic wallets can be used, in the whole ecosystem. And this is also a platform that we're going to use in the Smart Village program. I have 2 or 3 more slides, maybe to support or strengthen my earlier comments, saying that Africa was ready. I thought that by mentioning what Jack Dorsey is doing or has been saying recently, that will be a good testimony. Although I'm not in any way saying that that's the way to go. So Square has its own strategy, but the most important thing is that they are taking bold decision actually to invest on the continent. He's going to spend 6 months, so I believe it's because he has seen something attractive. And he's probably not there just for charity, he's there to make money. And that should be appealing to you. Maybe next to that, I don't know if you have been following the news recently, there is a crypto city being built in Africa, in Senegal. You probably heard of Akon, the pop star. He is launching, and he has received the approval. So he has started actually, even they had the groundbreaking ceremony. So they're building a whole crypto city near Dakar, where basically a cryptocurrency called a coin is going to be used. So that tells you also probably how leapfrogging is happening, how much leapfrogging is happening on the continent. And I believe this is also another testimony. But this is probably the best of all. Look at the opportunity. 1.7 billion by 2030. This is the opportunity that you have before you. This is the opportunity because these are the people who are going to use massively the technology that is going to be leading in the continent on the next few years. I mentioned Niger. You definitely should come. We are the youngest country on earth. What does it mean? Median age is 15, out of a population of 22 million. 2/3 of the population is under 25 years old. And as I said, we have put digital at the center of our strategy, which means that if you're able to lock in customers today, these are customers that you'll have for the next 30, 40, 50, 60 years, because also the life expectancy is increasing. I hope that's a strong statement. And finally, this is the strategy that we're putting in place. I will invite you to Google it. I can give more information about it, but that tells you also how serious you are about using technology and making it really central to our decision, our policies. There are 4 pillars. One is to digitize the whole government, so that by 2028 we're fully paperless. We bring the transparency that is needed. We bring the efficiency that is needed to run properly a country. The Smart Village program that I mentioned is at least 15,000 villages that we want to connect in the next 3 to 5 years. We have already $100 million that has been secured from the World Bank. And I think that is going to help. That's what our friend from UNICEF was saying earlier, really help with the financing so that we cover the main risk. And then we're setting up also an innovation city. Our ambition is to become one of the centers of gravity when it comes to technology, especially tech for SDGs. We want to be a powerhouse for that. We are the youngest population on earth, so if we focus on knowledge acquisition, putting the right resources is something that we can achieve in the next 10 to 20 years. And this is already up and running. I launched a coding academy 3 months ago. I'm launching in the next 2 months a drone academy, because we're building drones in Niger. And who knows what's going to be next. Thank you very much.